All right, so I don't know how I'm going to edit this, but we got this poly on here. Kind of wanted to start the video like on the engine stand so I don't have to kneel and I'm not bent over doing all this. But the engine's locked up, so the converter's stuck on it. So got the transmission off, and I'm just going to tear it down here, at least get the heads off, and then see if I can, knock the pistons around, get them loose. That way I can get it at least turned over and get the converter off the thing, and then we'll go from there. Then I may just put the heads back on for like demonstration and go through everything. This will just be like a little time lapse going through all this stuff. All right, so we're just soaking everything in some PB Blaster here. The engine sat outside for a long time. I think the guy told me like 5 years or something like that. But intake came off super easy. It's not like an LA one where you got to get in there with a wrench on those two by the carb flange. So that was pretty nice. See there that the timing cover is cast iron. It's got that big single roller on it. And there's studs to hold or align the timing cover, so that's pretty nice. You can see the cylinder walls. They're pretty well tore up. And right there you can see the reason why everything's stuck. Well, and the pistons are pretty stuck in the cylinder wall also. But yeah, it's a rag in the carb flange is not adequate to sit outside to keep it from locking up. I'm pretty sure it's locked up when the guy pulled it. There's a broken rod and stuff, so that's probably why it sat outside. I don't even know why he bothered covering it up or keeping it, but luckily he did, and we get to play around with it. Here I'm just going back and forth, pulling the heads apart so I can do the little outro here, I guess you'd call it, but clean up the valves. The valves have this Chrysler Plymouth Dodge DeSoto logo on it, the little square one with just the letters, the CPDD. So that was pretty cool. I was pretty stoked about finding that. All right, so it's been like a mess over here for, I don't know, probably over a month since I got this thing. It's just been sitting over here. Been busy doing other stuff, and I really haven't known like how to make this video interesting for other people. Like I think all this stuff's interesting just because I like engines, but I'm trying to make it interesting for other people. So in this video, I'm just going to show like me tearing it down. I did that time lapse. I'm going to do some talk over of some of the stuff I found interesting. And then I'm just going to show you the parts, a quick run through of stuff right now. And then in the comments, I want you guys to kind of like guess, like just like for valve size, the valve length, if it's similar to an LA or the head diameter similar to an LA, and just main bore housing and stuff like that. Because obviously you can look at all this stuff, it's very similar to an LA. Even valvetrain wise, the way the rockers mount and stuff, it's pretty similar to an LA. Obviously chamber design's completely different and the head's pretty much completely different, but you can see some aspects here and there of each. So I'm just gonna do a quick little video of all this stuff and then just comment some of the stuff that you see that's interesting or you think similar to the LA or something you think is way different than the LA. So we're going to spin around and do that. So I'll start at the block. You can see the oiling holes. They don't go to both sides of the lifter. So that's the one thing that caught my eye right away. So both banks of the lifters aren't fed. The main caps are numbered, which Mopar has always been pretty good about. Obviously this one's not numbered, but the other one's back there. They're cast into it. You can see the webbing in the back of the block there. Pretty beefy stuff. And then it's got, I guess, another thread adapter that necks it down to a smaller size. The ears on this side are inverse of what they would normally be. So it'd be more like this on like a 318 or a 340 or 360. They're all slightly, or 340, 360 I think are the same, or 318, 340 are the same. Then 360 is different. Probably 360 is different. I think 318s have 4 holes, like a standard LA. I forgot to mention this is also a 1957 277. So that's a Plymouth, I believe. I'll correct it if I'm wrong. So we go up into here. There's an intermediate bushing, just like on the LAs. This just, I don't know, this just looks a lot nicer, this whole thing. I feel like there's a lot more strength into it too. Everything's
a lot beefier. Oh, just fell. Let me get a light so you can see how much more beef there is in there. So that's pretty interesting. All this, I mean, you can tell why these blocks are a lot heavier. But yeah, and then just our deck surfaces. Got some casting numbers and stuff in there. When getting the pistons out, I did smack the deck, so this block's pretty much junk. It wouldn't be worth saving. It's severely pitted. I still should have been a little more careful, but it really wasn't worth saving. But still hurts my feelings a little bit that I did that to this poor thing. But it is what it is. It was just sitting outside, and they're probably gonna scrap it. Has studs for the timing cover. That's pretty cool. This little emboss right here, or it's set back. On LA, it's all flat right in there. That P29 is what told me what it is as far as like the engine. Then your Dodge Plymouth Chrysler DeSoto. Another casting number. And then just the block again. Here's our main cap. You can see it's got a big saddle on the back of it. So rod bearings that are toast. Just want to show those because it looks like every other small block Mopar. Forged crank in it. It's already 10 under by looking at the rod bearings, at least one of them that I saw. I haven't measured it, but in the next video, I'm going to measure all this stuff. And you could probably use this if you wanted it. But one of the things my dad told me when I was a little kid, he's like, I was pulling apart some engine or something, and I think I asked him if it had a forged crank or whatever. And he's like, it looked like, you'll know it's a forged crank because it'll look like shit. This one's not terrible, but you can kind of see what he meant by that. The later ones are a lot nastier looking. This one's actually fairly decent looking compared to like an LA crank. The LA cranks, they have like, I don't know. If you've seen one, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, they just look kind of terrible.
All right, so here's an LA crank, a forged one. Threw this picture up here because I knew someone's gonna probably bitch about it and be like, "A Ford factory Mopar crank's the best looking thing ever made." So I just want to throw that picture in there so you guys can actually get proof. So you can see what I'm talking about, how terrible they look. Do they work? Yeah. Are they heavy? And you should just run a cast crank for most stuff? Yeah, definitely. But that's just for those Mopar diehards who think anything that came out of the Mopar factory is the best thing ever made. If you want to see a good forged crank, look at a new like 392 Hemi crank as far as a factory one, or Molnar or anyone like that. That's what something nice looks like. Just because it's strong doesn't make it nice.
This camshaft, it's very peaky, if that makes sense. Like the lobes aren't round. I mean, they're rounded, but you know what I mean? And then also after I do all the measurements on stuff, I want to make a third video and lay out all LA stuff and compare it. I think that'd be kind of interesting. Also on this flange, it's extended way past the end of the crank, and the torque converter has studs in it, and you just put nuts on it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You can see it also has this big, thick timing chain. I don't know. You can see it there more so with my thumb, but super wide. It looks like a date, like had like 190 or something on it, and a lot of the bearings had 90 on it. So I think this engine was overhauled in like 1990. So yeah, distributor hold down looks just like an LA one. Had a little oil slinger in there. These are just the rubbers on the oil pan gasket. I just thought they're kind of interesting looking, so I saved them. That's the rear main seal. So there's some other engine that's like that has the little ears off it. I can't remember if it's like a big block Mopar or something. I don't know. I don't have a lot of big block experience. I don't really have any. This is their timing pointer. So that's like a small block Chevys have one that just like bolts to it. And then the first LAs had it. The 64 and a half one, those had it. I think 65 might have had a bolt-on one too. I can't remember. This is something I thought was pretty, well, let me show this rod and piston first. So rod, looks like small block low bar rod. They are floating pin pistons, so that's pretty cool. Comfortmatic. But yeah, you can see the little circlip in there. Look at the oil ring. The oil ring is pretty interesting, I thought. Never seen one like that. This one I don't remember. There's top of the piston. Got the opposing valve reliefs. I don't know if there is a Chrysler logo. It's got a part number, like one. Not sure. Not seeing a Chrysler logo. But we'll figure out if that's standard in the next video. Then I was talking about on this that I thought was interesting. Is they actually put an O-ring on the oil pickup, which I feel like stresses every Mopar guy out. Like when you put that oil pump on, you're just hoping and praying that it's flat and you're going to get a good seal. I ran copper ones. I've seen other people put paper ones. I've seen a guy blowing his engine up on the paper one drying up there. I mean, definitely a possibility, I guess. But you can see it's got like a pressure relief setup there. That must be where the spring is in that. I'm kind of scared to take this thing apart. It is pretty crusty. And then you see it has the opposite end of like an LA, whereas LA has that flat head style shaft that would go into that, and this one drives it off the slot. Well, no. An LA would have like a hex drive on that goes into the oil pump. Not that. Then there's another little plug in there from the machining. And then it has a swinging pickup, which I thought was pretty interesting. It doesn't swing a lot, so not exactly sure the point of that. I guess any little bit helps. But yeah, that thing is definitely done for. This tube, there ain't no way that's coming out without breaking. So that's just your standard cam plate. Looks just like an LA. Same thing with fuel pump centric. I thought this was really cool that Chrysler stopped doing. That is what holds your dipstick at the top of the dipstick so it doesn't bend or move all around. If you ever grabbed an LA one and it's stuck up a little bit, you'll bend the tube. And then the tubes always break off. This one did break off on the block also. So that's what I'm talking about. If you ever try to pull them out, they'll break out. And you got to get like a tap out or easy out and put it in there. Here's a dipstick. It's kind of split right there. And that's what keeps the tension in that from coming out. That's kind of cool. The LAs just kind of have like a little chamfered thing that slides in there. Or the cap kind of does it, holds it in place. Then 3 bolts hold the valve cover down. They got like this replaceable oil filter, which I thought was pretty cool. There's the part number for it, and this is the canister for it. And then push rod, their ball and cup. Another bearing. This was the oil pressure sensor. Exhaust manifold, and then here's a head with all the rockers on. You can see the springs and the adjustable, and then this little pin, that's what holds that whole shaft in. You just pull that pin out. It's not screwed in, it's literally just a little pin. That's all it is. I had one out somewhere. I don't know what I did with it now. But yeah, anyways, believe me, that's all it is. And then here's our chambers, our ports. That's going to be our intake port. Then our exhaust port. You see it there a little bit. Then our intakes there. These are water crossovers. The water, and then exhaust crossover, and then intake ports. But you can see that. Our deck surfaces. This is your exhaust valve. It's got a little dish to it, so you see it wobble. Thought that was kind of interesting. Never seen an exhaust valve like that. And then intake valve, they're dished. So kind of takes away the CC gain of that from that. But it does have the Chrysler Plymouth Dodge logo on the valve. You can see that. Not really focusing. Maybe. There you go. See it right there in that top. So I thought that was pretty cool. They're not savable. They're pitted really bad. I wouldn't trust putting them in an engine. These heads I think will be savable. I'll probably recondition them and put them on eBay when I'm all done making the videos and stuff. But and then there's a shaft for the rockers. So like performance stuff for LA always had these. They call them banana groove shafts. So these came like that from the factory. Oh, right, there's that little pin I was telling you about that just pushes in there that holds it in. Another push rod, and then there's that spring and the rockers. You can see the one's offset more than the other, but they look just like W2s or the 273 rockers, like casting wise. Obviously, they're a lot different offset, but you don't get that. Oil pan saddles are the same side on both sides, so I want to show that. That's the bell housing extension. If you ever seen like an old Hemi, I forget what years it is. I saw one when I was a little kid, but they had like the bell housing would like come out to here on the block. They call them like extended bell housing blocks. So I'm guessing that's what that's for, is so they could use like the same transmission when they're making that block at the same time. Timing cover, it's cast iron. 2-barrel intake. And then I thought this was kind of cool. This is your bottom pulley, and it's not your harmonic balancer because there's no harmonic balancer to it. It's just a pulley. So I'm not really sure what you would call it. I'm just going to call it the harmonic balancer for keeping it simple, but it doesn't have that. So I thought that was kind of neat. And here's the transmission. That's Chrysler's first 2-speed automatic, fully automatic. So it's got a converter and it shifts on its own. So I may do a video on that. I just don't have a lot of experience with transmission, so me talking about that probably wouldn't be the best thing. But yeah, just want to do a little brief overview of all the parts so you guys can make some comments and take some guesses about some stuff, and we'll get more into it on the next video.